For centuries, real power in Britain did not sit inside government buildings or royal speeches. It lived quietly behind towering stone mansions, iron gates, and private family estates that ordinary people never entered. This power was inherited, not elected, and passed silently from one generation to the next. It was hidden inside land deeds, bloodlines, and traditions designed to outlive empires. Most people are taught to believe that wealth is created through hard work, struggle, and talent. But British history reveals a very different and far more uncomfortable truth. The wealthiest families in Britain rarely worked for money in the traditional sense. Instead, they owned the systems in which everyone else was forced to work. This is not a story of ambition or personal success. It is the story of a system carefully designed to protect privilege over centuries. A system built slowly, patiently, and deliberately, with no concern for fairness. And once this system was established, escaping it became nearly impossible. To truly understand how this power survived for so long, we must slow down and look deeper. Because elite wealth never rushed, never panicked, and never reacted emotionally. It waited calmly as wars came and went, governments collapsed, and societies changed. While generations passed, wealth quietly multiplied in the background. In medieval Britain, land was not simply property or real estate. Land was life itself, controlling food, shelter, security, and survival. Whoever owned land controlled the people who depended on it. And the British Crown understood this reality better than anyone else. Kings rewarded loyalty not with salaries, but with vast pieces of land. Entire villages, farms, and counties were handed to a single family forever. These grants were not temporary favors, but permanent transfers of power. This is how noble dynasties were born. Peasants did not work by choice or opportunity. They worked because refusing meant starvation or punishment. Rent was demanded, labor was expected, and obedience was enforced. Freedom, as we understand it today, simply did not exist. Landowners earned wealth without touching a plow or lifting a tool. Harvest after harvest, rent flowed upward into elite households. Generation after generation lived comfortably from the same soil. This was passive income centuries before the term existed. Elite families feared many things, but one danger stood above all others: the division of wealth among heirs, because division weakened power and invited outsiders. And outsiders were always a threat. To prevent this, Britain enforced the rule of primogeniture. One son inherited almost everything. The estate, the title, and the authority remained united. Power was never diluted. Younger sons were redirected into the army, the church, or colonial service. Daughters became instruments of alliance through marriage. Love was secondary, sometimes irrelevant. Marriage was a financial and political transaction. British law did not evolve randomly over time. It was shaped deliberately by those who already held land and power. Property laws favored inheritance, stability, and elite continuity. Justice and equality were never the priority. Legal tools like entails and trusts locked estates in place. Even irresponsible heirs could not destroy family wealth. Individual failure became survivable. The family always outlived the person. The British Empire was not built for patriotism or national pride. It was built to extract resources, labor, and profit. Colonies existed to feed British wealth from afar, and elite families stood at the top of this flow. Sugar, cotton, tea, and spices crossed oceans. So did suffering, violence, and exploitation. Yet prophets washed these realities clean. Money does not remember where it comes from. War destroyed nations, cities, and lives. But for British elites, war was often an investment opportunity. They financed armies, ships, and weapons, and collected interest long after the fighting ended. National debt became a permanent income stream. Governments borrowed but never fully repaid. Taxes paid by ordinary people flowed upward. Wealth recycled itself endlessly. Old British families did not simply inherit wealth. They engineered systems designed to preserve it forever. Land, law, empire, and finance worked together seamlessly. Nothing about this was accidental. Today, many grand mansions stand empty or open to tourists. Titles may seem symbolic and traditions outdated. But wealth rarely disappears, it only changes form. Old money becomes invisible money. Empires fall, governments collapse, and societies transform. But systems outlive individuals. And the systems that protected British elite wealth still exist today, because true power never announces itself, it waits. Land ownership in Britain was never merely about soil, fences, or geographical boundaries drawn on a map. It was a system designed to control every human life tied to that land, generation after generation. Farmers, laborers, craftsmen, and entire families existed completely within the economic gravity of elite estates. Their survival, dignity, and future depended entirely on obedience to one powerful name. Rent in elite Britain was not discussed, negotiated, or questioned. It was imposed without mercy. Failure to meet rent demands could result in eviction, punishment, imprisonment, or slow starvation. There were no alternative employers, no free markets, and no escape routes for the poor. The landlord was not just an owner, but the economy itself. Villages were deliberately designed around elite estates to reinforce dependence and control. Homes, churches, schools, and local markets existed only to serve one central authority. Roads, pathways, and trade routes all led back to the manor house. Every ounce of productivity eventually flowed upward into elite hands. This structure created what can only be described as economic gravity. Money never remained at the bottom for long, no matter how hard people worked. Like water flowing downhill, wealth always returned to the landowner. Circulation existed, but ownership never changed. Titles in Britain were far more than decorative symbols or ceremonial honors. They functioned as powerful social shields that protected families from criticism and accountability. A noble title instantly legitimized wealth regardless of how it was obtained. Respect replaced questioning and tradition replaced justice. A titled family was assumed to be respectable, stable, and morally superior by default. Their wealth was never examined closely, and their power was rarely challenged. Privilege disguised itself as heritage and duty, and over time, inequality came to feel natural. Common people slowly internalized this rigid hierarchy. They accepted inequality not as injustice, but as fate. Challenging elite authority felt dangerous, sinful, and socially forbidden. The system survived because people believed in it. British law did not exist to create equality between classes. Its primary purpose was to enforce continuity and stability for the ruling elite. Property laws were crafted carefully to ensure land never escaped elite hands. Fairness was never the goal, preservation was. Legal mechanisms like entails prevented land from being sold, divided, or liquidated. Even the most reckless or incompetent heir could not permanently destroy family wealth. Bankruptcy ruined individuals but never bloodlines. Failure became survivable for the elite.